I used to believe betrayal announced itself. I thought it would come with lipstick on a collar, a message left open on a phone, a hotel receipt tucked in the wrong pocket, something obvious, something dramatic, something that would give a woman like me permission to stop doubting herself. But betrayal rarely enters through the front door. Sometimes it sits across from you at breakfast, drinking coffee from the mug you bought him on your 4th anniversary. Sometimes it smiles at you from the other side of your mother's dining table, wearing your sister's face. My name is Ava Whitmore Reed. I was 34 years old when my life split into 2 parts, before I knew and after I knew. Before, I lived in a quiet neighborhood just outside Charlotte, North Carolina, in a white 2-story house with navy shutters and a porch swing Nathan promised to fix every spring but never did. I worked as a financial manager for a construction development firm downtown. My days were numbers, contracts, budgets, and meetings with men who loved to underestimate women until we found the mistakes in their spreadsheets. I was good at my job. Better than good, honestly. I had spent years building a reputation for being calm, organized, and impossible to manipulate. At work, nobody could shake me. At home, I was much easier to fool. My husband, Nathan Reed, was the kind of man people liked immediately. He had warm brown eyes, an easy laugh, and a talent for making strangers feel like old friends. He worked in real estate, and he could sell a crumbling bungalow as full of character without sounding dishonest. He remembered birthdays, shook hands firmly, and always knew exactly when to put his arm around my waist in public. At family gatherings, my aunts would say, "Ava, you got lucky with that one." And I would smile because I believed them. Nathan and I had been married for 5 years. Not perfect years, but good years. Or at least, that was what I told myself. We had the house, the careers, the Sunday dinners at my mother's, the matching Christmas cards nobody asked for but everyone expected. We were the couple people pointed to when they wanted proof that marriage could still look stable. I used to love that word. Stable. It sounded safe. What I didn't understand was that sometimes stable only means nothing has collapsed yet. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday morning in March. Nathan was standing in the kitchen, already dressed for work in a charcoal suit and pale blue shirt. I was at the island, scrolling through emails while trying to drink coffee that had gone cold 10 minutes earlier. "You're leaving early again?" I asked. He didn't look up from his phone. "Client wants to see a property before his flight. At 7:30 in the morning? It's a serious buyer." That was Nathan's answer for everything lately. A serious buyer, a complicated closing, a last-minute showing, a networking dinner, a client who could only meet after hours. I nodded, but something inside me tightened. "You've had a lot of those recently," I said. This time he looked up. His smile came fast, practiced, charming. "That's a good thing, right? More deals, more commission." "Sure," I said. "I just barely see you anymore." Nathan crossed the kitchen and kissed my forehead. Not my lips, my forehead. The kind of kiss people give a child or an elderly relative or someone they want to comfort without getting too close. "I'm doing this for us, Ava." I wanted to believe him. That was the embarrassing part. Even when my instincts whispered that something was wrong, my heart kept trying to defend him. Maybe he was stressed. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe marriage after 5 years was supposed to feel quieter. He grabbed his keys from the counter, then paused at the door. "Oh, your sister called me last night," he said casually, too casually. "She said Ethan has that school fundraiser thing on Friday." I looked up. "Brooke called you?" "Yeah, she couldn't reach you." My phone had been beside me all evening. No missed call, no voicemail, no text. "She didn't call me," I said. Nathan shrugged. Maybe she meant to. Then he left before I could ask anything else. For a few seconds, I stood alone in the kitchen, listening to the garage door close. The house felt too quiet. The refrigerator hummed. My coffee sat untouched. Outside the window, a neighbor walked her golden retriever past our lawn, and for some reason, the normalness of it all made my stomach twist. Brooke, my younger sister. Brooke Whitmore was 30 years old, beautiful in the kind of effortless way that made people forgive her before she apologized. She had soft blonde hair, wide blue eyes, and a talent for making helplessness look adorable. When we were kids, if Brooke broke something, she cried before anyone could get angry. If she borrowed money, she promised to pay it back with a hug and a story about how hard things had been lately. People protected Brooke. I protected Brooke. After our father died, I became the responsible daughter without anyone officially assigning me the role. Mom leaned on me for paperwork, bills, doctor appointments, tax forms, insurance calls. Brooke leaned on me for everything else: rent, groceries, car repairs, childcare, emotional support at midnight. And Ethan was Brooke's 5-year-old son. Sweet, restless, sharp-eyed Ethan, who loved dinosaurs and hated carrots unless someone called them dragon sticks. Brooke had told us his father was an old boyfriend named Marcus, a man none of us ever met, who supposedly disappeared the moment she told him she was pregnant. I never questioned it. Why would I? Brooke had cried in my arms when she was pregnant. I had driven her to appointments. I had bought the crib, paid half her hospital bill, and held Ethan the night he was born while Brooke slept pale and exhausted in the hospital bed. I loved that little boy. And because I loved him, I forgave Brooke for needing more from me than she ever gave back. That Friday, Nathan and I went to Ethan's school fundraiser at a small private preschool near South Park. I had paid the tuition deposit 2 years earlier when Brooke said public preschool made her anxious. Nathan had told me I was too generous, but he still came with me. Brooke arrived late, of course, wearing a cream sweater dress, high boots, and the deep red lipstick she always said was her signature. She swept into the classroom with Ethan's backpack over one shoulder and sunglasses perched on her head, looking less like a stressed single mother and more like someone arriving at brunch. "Ava," she said brightly, hugging me. "You look tired. Nice to see you too." She laughed like I had made a joke. Then she turned to Nathan. Something changed. It was small, so small that if I had blinked I might have missed it. Brooke's smile softened. Nathan's shoulders relaxed. Their eyes met for half a second too long. "Hey, Nate," Brooke said. Nate. I hated when she called him that, not because it was wrong. Other people called him Nate. His friends did. His coworkers did. But when Brooke said it, the name sounded private, familiar. "Hey, Brooke," Nathan replied. He didn't hug her. He didn't touch her. Nothing obvious happened. Still, I felt like I had walked into the middle of a conversation that stopped the moment I arrived. Ethan came running toward Nathan, holding a paper dinosaur covered in green glitter. "Daddy Nate, look what I made!" The room did not go silent. Children were still shouting. Parents were still talking. A teacher was still trying to keep orange juice from spilling across a table of auction forms. But my world went quiet. "Daddy Nate." Nathan froze. Brooke's face changed first. Her smile tightened, then stretched too wide. "Oh my God," she said quickly, laughing. "He's been doing that lately, calling everyone Daddy something. Daddy Mailman, Daddy Dinosaur. Kids are so weird." Nathan cleared his throat. "Yeah, it's just a phase." I looked down at Ethan. He was holding up the glitter dinosaur, completely innocent, completely unaware that he had dropped something heavy into the room. "Is that right, buddy?" I asked gently. Ethan nodded. "Mommy said not to say it." Brooke's hand landed on his shoulder. Too fast. "Ethan," she said, her voice still sweet but sharper underneath, "why don't you go show Miss Carla your dinosaur?" Ethan ran off. I turned to Nathan. He was looking at the refreshment table. I turned to Brooke. She was adjusting her bracelet. For the rest of the fundraiser, I tried to act normal. I bid on a basket of children's books. I smiled at teachers. I bought overpriced cupcakes wrapped in plastic. Nathan stood beside me, but he felt far away. Brooke kept touching Ethan's hair, smoothing it, fussing over him, watching me from the corner of her eye. On the drive home, I waited for Nathan to bring it up. He didn't. Finally, I said, "That was weird, right?" "What?" I stared at him. "Ethan calling you Daddy Nate." Nathan let out a short laugh. "Ava, he's 5. I know how old he is. Then don't make it into something." His tone stung more than the words. "I'm not making it into anything. I just thought it was strange." "He doesn't have a father around," Nathan said, eyes on the road. "Maybe he's attached to me because I show up for him." That should have comforted me. Instead, it made me feel strangely small. "I show up for him too," I said. Nathan sighed. "That's not what I meant." But it was what he meant. Or at least, it was what I heard. That night, after Nathan went to bed, I stayed downstairs and folded laundry under the soft yellow light of the living room lamp. It was one of those ordinary domestic tasks that usually calmed me. Towels, socks, undershirts, dress shirts, proof that life was continuing in its familiar rhythm. Then I picked up Nathan's pale blue shirt, the one he had worn that morning. There was a faint mark near the collar. At first I thought it was wine, then maybe sauce. But when I held it closer, my chest tightened. Lipstick, deep red, Brooks red. I stared at it for a long time. The house was silent except for the dryer humming in the hallway. Upstairs, Nathan was sleeping in our bed, probably turned on his side, one arm under the pillow, like always. For 5 years, that image had meant safety to me. Marriage, home, trust. Now it felt like evidence. I wanted to storm upstairs. I wanted to wake him up, throw the shirt at him, demand an explanation. But I didn't, because somewhere deep inside, beneath the shock and anger and humiliation, a colder voice whispered, "Not yet. Not until you know." So I folded the shirt carefully. I placed it on top of the laundry basket. Then I sat on the couch in the dark and thought about every little moment I had ignored. Brooke knowing Nathan hated mushrooms. Nathan remembering Ethan's favorite bedtime story. The way Brooke always asked if Nathan would be at Sunday dinner before confirming she was coming. The way Nathan defended her whenever I said she needed to be more responsible. The way my mother, Linda, sometimes watched all of us together with a sadness I had never understood. By 2 a.m, I was no longer crying. That scared me more than the tears, because the woman crying at midnight still wants the truth to be kind. The woman sitting dry-eyed in the dark already knows it will not be. The next morning, Nathan came downstairs freshly showered, smiling like nothing in the world had changed. "Morning," he said. "Coffee smells good." I looked at him. My husband. The man who had promised before God and our families to love me, honor me, and choose me. I smiled back. "Morning." He kissed my cheek and reached for a mug. And for the first time in 5 years, I did not lean into him. I watched him pour his coffee, watched him check his phone, watched his thumb move quickly across the screen before he turned it face down on the counter. Then he looked at me. "What?" he asked. I shook my head. "Nothing." But it was not nothing. It was the beginning. And by the time I finished my coffee, I had already decided one thing. If Nathan was lying to me, I was going to find out. And if Brooke was part of it, being my sister would not save her. For the next 3 days, I became 2 different women. The first woman was the one Nathan saw. She woke up beside him, made coffee, asked about his meetings, kissed his cheek before work, and smiled when he told her he would be home late again. She folded laundry. She answered emails. She sent her mother polite texts about Sunday dinner. That woman looked calm. That woman looked trusting. That woman was a lie. The second woman was the one who came alive when Nathan left the room. She checked receipts. She memorized times. She looked at bank statements with the precision she normally reserved for million-dollar construction budgets. She noticed every missing hour, every strange charge, every vague answer. That woman did not cry. That woman counted. On Monday morning, Nathan told me he had a lunch meeting with a retired couple looking to downsize from a house in Myers Park. At 12:17 p.m., his business credit card showed a charge at a restaurant near South End for 2 people. At 2:46 p.m., another charge appeared. Not at a gas station, not at an office supply store, not at a property listing, at a boutique hotel off East Boulevard. I sat at my desk staring at the transaction until the numbers blurred. My office door was half open. Outside, people were moving through the hallway with folders and coffee cups, laughing about deadlines and weather and someone's terrible parking job. The world had the nerve to keep acting normal while mine quietly cracked down the middle. My assistant, Julia, appeared at the door. "Ava, you okay?" I clicked out of the banking page too quickly. "Yes," I said, "just a headache." "You want me to move your 2:30? "No. I'm fine." She hesitated, then nodded and left. I was not fine, but I had spent too many years being the dependable one to fall apart in a glass-walled office. That night, Nathan came home smelling faintly of expensive soap that did not belong to us. He walked into the kitchen while I was chopping vegetables for dinner. "Hey," he said, "sorry I'm late." "You said lunch meeting," I replied without looking up. It ran long. With the retired couple? A pause. It was only a second. Maybe less, but I heard it. "Yeah," he said. "They had a lot of questions." I lowered the knife and turned toward him. "What were their names?" Nathan smiled, but something tightened around his mouth. Why? I'm curious. Tom and Marianne, he said. Last name? He laughed softly, like I was being cute, like I was a wife asking harmless questions, not a woman standing at the edge of a cliff. God, Ava, I don't remember every client's last name off the top of my head. You're a real estate agent, and you're a financial manager. Do you remember every subcontractor's middle name? That's not the same thing. He sighed, walked behind me, and put his hands on my shoulders. I hated that my body still recognized him. I hated that for half a second, some pathetic part of me wanted to lean back into his chest and pretend none of this was happening. You've been tense lately, he said. His voice was gentle. That almost made it worse. I've had a lot on my mind. Work, among other things. He kissed the side of my head. Don't carry everything alone, okay? I almost laughed. The cruelty of that sentence was so perfect it felt rehearsed by God. Instead, I picked up the knife again. Dinner will be ready in 20 minutes. Nathan's hand slipped away. I felt him watching me. Then his phone buzzed. He checked it. His face changed. Not much. Just enough. A small lift at the corner of his mouth, a warmth in his eyes that had not been there for me in months. He typed quickly, then turned the phone face down. That night, when he went upstairs to shower, I stood in the kitchen and stared at his phone on the counter. The old Ava would never have touched it. The old Ava believed privacy was part of respect. She believed marriage required trust. She believed if you had to search your husband's phone, the marriage was already broken. The old Ava had been very noble. The old Ava had also been very easy to deceive. I picked up the phone. The screen lit. New password. Of course. I tried our anniversary. Wrong. I tried his birthday. Wrong. I tried the last 4 digits of his phone number. Wrong. The screen locked me out for 30 seconds. I placed it back exactly where it had been. When Nathan came downstairs, hair damp, wearing gray sweatpants and a t-shirt, he glanced at the phone, then at me. For one terrifying second, I thought he knew. But he only said, "You want to watch something?" "No," I said. "I'm tired." I went upstairs before he could see my hands shaking. The next morning, I called Nathan's office. I waited until I knew he would be out showing properties. Then I dialed the main number and asked for his assistant, Carly. "This is Ava Reed," I said warmly. "I'm so sorry to bother you. I'm trying to confirm Nathan's schedule for Friday. He mentioned a closing, but I may have mixed up the time." Carly sounded young, cheerful, and completely unaware that she was about to destroy the last piece of my denial. "Let me check," she said. "Friday. He has a morning team meeting at 9, then he blocked off noon to 4 as personal." "Personal?" "Yes, it just says personal appointment." I closed my eyes. "Thank you," I said. "That helps." "No problem." I hung on that very still. "Friday, noon to 4. That was when I decided to lie. On Thursday evening, I told Nathan I had to go to Atlanta for a last-minute client review. "Overnight?" he asked. "Yes, I'll be back Saturday morning." He looked surprised, not disappointed. Surprised, then relieved. He tried to hide it, but by then I had become fluent in the language of small betrayals. "That's a long drive," he said. "I know. You want me to come with you?" The offer came too quickly, too safely. He knew I would say no. "No, it'll be boring. Just numbers and angry developers." He smiled. "Well, call me when you get there." "I will." I packed a small overnight bag while he watched basketball downstairs. I put in clothes I did not need, a toothbrush, a phone charger, a performance for an audience of 1. But instead of driving to Atlanta the next day, I checked into a business hotel 20 minutes from our house under my maiden name. Whitmore, not Reed. That felt important. At 11:35 a.m. on Friday, I sat in my car in a parking lot across from Nathan's office, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap I had bought from a gas station because apparently betrayal turns ordinary women into bad detectives. Nathan came out at 11:52. He was not dressed for a closing. No tie, no briefcase, no client folder, just jeans, a dark jacket, and the easy confidence of a man who believed his wife was 2 states away. I followed him. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my throat. Every red light felt personal. Every turn made me afraid he would notice me, but Nathan never looked back. Why would he? Men like Nathan do not look behind them when they believe the woman they betrayed is still trusting them. He drove 15 minutes to a boutique hotel tucked behind a row of oak trees. Not cheap, not flashy. The kind of place people choose when they want privacy without feeling dirty. He parked near the side entrance. I pulled into a spot behind a landscaping truck and waited. Nathan got out first. He checked his phone. Then he smiled. 5 minutes later, Brooke arrived. My sister stepped out of her white SUV wearing oversized sunglasses, tight black jeans, and the camel-colored coat I had given her for Christmas. The coat still had the belt tied the way I had shown her. I remembered standing in my bedroom on Christmas morning, wrapping it carefully in silver paper. Brooke had squealed when she opened it. "Ava, this is too much," she had said, holding it against herself in the mirror. I had laughed. "You deserve something nice." Now she walked across a hotel parking lot in that coat to meet my husband. For a moment, I could not move. There are things the mind knows before the heart accepts them. I knew. I had known since the lipstick. Maybe before that. Maybe since Ethan said Daddy Nate. Maybe since the first time Brooke laughed too softly at something Nathan said. But seeing them together was different. Seeing them made denial impossible. Nathan opened his arms. Brooke walked straight into them. Not cautiously, not guiltily, not like a woman making a terrible mistake, like someone coming home. He held her face in his hands and kissed her. I stopped breathing. It was not a desperate kiss. It was not clumsy or rushed. It was familiar. That was what hurt the most, the familiarity. His thumb brushing her cheek, her hand sliding under his jacket. The way their bodies knew where to fit. This was not the first time. This was not even close to the first time. My phone was in my hand before I realized I had reached for it. I took photos, one of them kissing, one of Nathan's hand on her back, one of them entering the side door together. After they disappeared inside, I sat frozen in the car. I thought I would scream. I thought I would sob so hard someone would hear me from the sidewalk, but I did neither. A strange, hollow quiet filled me. I looked down at the photos and zoomed in on Brooke's face. She was smiling. My little sister was smiling while holding the man who slept beside me every night. I drove back to the hotel where I had checked in and sat on the edge of the bed until the sky outside turned gray. I did not turn on the lights. I did not take off my coat. I just sat there, holding my phone, staring at the proof. At 6:09 p.m., Nathan texted me. "Made it to Atlanta?" I stared at the message. Then I typed, "Just got here, long drive, exhausted." He replied almost immediately, "Get some rest. Love you, love you." I laughed then, one short ugly sound. The next morning, I drove home. Nathan was already there when I arrived, standing in the kitchen in sweatpants making scrambled eggs. He turned when I walked in. "There she is," he said. "How was Atlanta?" "Productive." "Good." He kissed my forehead again, that same harmless, distant kiss. I looked at him and wondered how many times his mouth had moved from my sister's lips to my forehead, as if love were just a schedule he could manage. "You okay?" he asked. "Just tired." "You worked too hard." I set my bag down. "Yes," I said, "I do." He did not hear the meaning underneath. Men like Nathan rarely do until it is too late. That afternoon, while he went out to run errands, I entered his home office. It was a room I rarely touched. Nathan liked to call it his command center, though mostly it was a desk, 2 monitors, real estate flyers, and golf trophies from charity tournaments where he had contributed nothing but a smile. I moved slowly. Desk drawer, file cabinet, bookshelf, printer tray, nothing. Then I noticed the bottom drawer on the right side of the desk. Locked, of course. I checked the small ceramic bowl near the window where Nathan kept old keys, cufflinks, and random coins. There were 3 small keys inside. The second one worked. The drawer slid open. Inside were property folders, old tax papers, and a black metal box. My hands went cold. The box was not locked. I opened it. At first I saw photographs, actual printed photographs. Who printed photographs anymore unless they wanted to hide them from the cloud? I lifted the first one. Nathan, Brooke, and Ethan at a park. Ethan was sitting on Nathan's shoulders, laughing with his mouth wide open. Brooke stood beside them, her head tilted against Nathan's arm. They looked like a family. Not almost, not accidentally. A family. There were more. Nathan holding Ethan at what looked like a children's museum. Brooke and Nathan sitting close together at a restaurant. Ethan asleep against Nathan's chest. A photo of the 3 of them in front of a Christmas tree I did not recognize. On the back of one photo, in Brooke's handwriting, were 4 words, "Our almost perfect life." I gripped the edge of the desk. Almost perfect. Almost. Because I was still in the way. Beneath the photos was a folded piece of paper. It was not a love note, it was worse, a printed email from a divorce attorney. Nathan had scheduled a consultation 2 weeks earlier. Subject line, asset division and spousal support concerns. I read it twice, then a third time. The words did not feel real at first. Nathan was not only cheating, he was planning. He was preparing to leave me, and he was making sure he did not lose too much when he did. I placed everything back exactly as I found it, except for one thing. I took photos of every photograph, every email, every page. Then I closed the box, locked the drawer, returned the key. When Nathan came home that evening, I was sitting at the kitchen island with a glass of water in front of me. He walked in carrying a grocery bag. "Got your oat milk," he said. "The brand you like." I looked at the carton. The small kindness almost made me sick, because that was how betrayal survives. Not through cruelty every day, through little kindnesses that make you question the evidence in your own hands. "Thanks," I said. He put it in the fridge, then turned to me. "You sure you're okay? You've been quiet." I met his eyes. "I'm just thinking." "About what?" I almost said it. "About you, about Brooke, about the hotel, about the photos hidden in your desk, about the life you built behind my back using pieces of mine." Instead, I smiled. "Work." Nathan relaxed. "Try not to bring it home with you." I nodded. But I had brought something home. Not work. Not suspicion. Proof. That night, Nathan fell asleep before me. I lay beside him in the dark, listening to his breathing. For years, that sound had comforted me. Now it sounded like a stranger in my bed. I turned my head and looked at him. His face was peaceful, innocent almost. I wondered how a person could sleep so easily beside someone they were destroying. Then I thought of Brooke, my sister, my blood, the girl I had carried home from parties, the woman I had defended to our mother, the single mom I had supported because I believed she was doing her best. I thought of Ethan calling Nathan Daddy Nate. I thought of Brooke's handwriting, our almost perfect life, and for the first time my sadness became something sharper. I did not want revenge yet, not exactly. I wanted the truth, all of it, because the affair was only the surface. I could feel it now. Something deeper was underneath, something older, something Nathan and Brooke had hidden long before I started noticing hotel charges and lipstick stains, and whatever it was, I was going to dig until I found it, even if it buried all of us. By Sunday morning, I had become very good at pretending. I pretended the coffee tasted normal. I pretended Nathan's hand on the small of my back did not make my skin crawl. I pretended I did not see Brooke's name flash across his phone when we pulled into my mother's driveway for dinner. And most of all, I pretended I did not know that somewhere in my husband's locked drawer there were photographs of him, my sister, and her son looking like the family he had chosen behind my back. My mother's house sat at the end of a quiet street lined with dogwoods and neat lawns, the kind of neighborhood where people waved from porches and pretended not to know each other's business. It was the house Brooke and I had grown up in. Yellow siding, white trim, a porch my father had built himself one summer when he still believed he had all the time in the world. After Dad died, Mom had refused to sell it. "This house remembers him," she always said. I used to find that comforting. Now, walking up the front steps beside Nathan, I wondered what else that house remembered. Mom opened the door before we rang the bell. Linda Whitmore was 61, but grief had aged her more than time. She had silver streaks in her brown hair now and soft lines around her mouth that deepened whenever she tried not to say something. She hugged Nathan first because he stepped forward first. "Nathan," she said warmly. "Linda," he replied, kissing her cheek. "Smells amazing in here." Mom smiled, but when her eyes found mine, something flickered. Concern or guilt. I was beginning to notice guilt everywhere. "You okay, sweetheart?" she asked. "Fine," I said. That word had become my favorite lie. Brooke arrived 20 minutes late, as usual, with Ethan holding one hand and a bakery box in the other. "I brought dessert," she announced. Mom looked toward the box. "You bought dessert?" Brooke laughed. "Same thing if you put it on a plate." She swept into the room like sunshine after rain. That had always been Brooke's gift. She could enter a room already forgiven. Her hair was curled, her lipstick was deep red, and the camel coat hung over one arm like evidence she did not know I had already seen. Her eyes met Nathan's, only for a moment, but I saw it. This time I did not look away. Hi, Ava, Brooke said, leaning in to hug me. Her perfume wrapped around me, sweet and expensive, a perfume I had bought her for her birthday. Hi, I said. She pulled back and studied my face. You look tired again. You keep saying that. I'm just worried about you. No, I said softly, you're not. The words came out before I could stop them. Brooke blinked. Nathan glanced at me. Mom stopped stirring something in the kitchen. For one sharp second, the whole room seemed to hold its breath. Then Ethan tugged on Brooke's sleeve. Mommy, can I show Uncle Nate my car? Uncle Nate. Not Daddy Nate this time. Brooke had coached him. My stomach turned. Nathan crouched down with a smile that looked too natural. Sure, buddy. What kind of car is it? A red race car. Fastest one in the world. Faster than yours. Nathan laughed, and Ethan laughed too. And I stood there watching the little boy I loved reach for the man who had helped make a fool of me. I hated myself for thinking that. Ethan was innocent. Ethan did not know what secrets adults hid inside ordinary words. Dinner was roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, and my mother's famous cornbread. Food from childhood. Food that should have made me feel safe. Instead, every sound felt amplified. Forks against plates, ice shifting in glasses. Brooke laughing too loudly. Nathan answering too smoothly. Mom watching everyone like she was waiting for a bomb to go off. So, Ava, Brooke said, cutting into her chicken, Mom said work has been busy. It always is. You should slow down sometimes. I looked at her. Should I? She smiled. I just mean life isn't all work. Nathan cleared his throat. Brooke's right. You've been under a lot of pressure. I almost admired them, the coordination, the softness, the way they were beginning to shape me into a woman who was too tense, too busy, too cold, a woman a husband might understandably drift away from. You two seem very concerned about me, I said. Brooke's smile faltered. Nathan set down his fork. Mom looked at me sharply. I took a sip of water. Relax, I said. I'm only making an observation. For the rest of dinner, Nathan spoke less. Brooke spoke more. She told a story about a difficult customer at her boutique, making herself sound brave and overworked. She mentioned how hard it was to be a single mom. She said Ethan had been asking more questions lately about why he did not have a father. At that, Mom's fork slipped from her hand and hit the plate. The sound was small, but everyone heard it. You okay, Mom? I asked. Yes, she said too quickly. Just clumsy. Brooke stared at her. Not worried. Warning. I saw that too. After dinner, Brooke took Ethan into the living room to watch cartoons. Nathan helped Mom carry plates into the kitchen, which would have looked thoughtful if I did not now know every thoughtful thing he did had a hidden price. I stayed in the dining room, pretending to stack napkins. From the kitchen, I heard Brooke's voice suddenly, low and sharp. She must have come back without me noticing. Mom, don't start. Then Mom's voice. I didn't say anything. You looked like you were going to. Nathan said, this isn't the time. I froze. The dining room light buzzed faintly above me. Mom whispered, there may never be a right time. Brooke hissed, you promised. A chair scraped. Nathan lowered his voice. Linda, please, think about what this would do to Ava. Think about what this would do to Ava. My heart began to pound. That sentence did not sound like guilt over an affair. It sounded like something older, something worse. I stepped into the kitchen. All three of them stopped. Brooke's face changed first. Sweetness snapped back into place like a mask. Need help? She asked. I looked at my mother. Her face was pale. With what? I asked. Nathan moved toward me. Nothing. We were just talking about Ethan. No, I said. You weren't. The kitchen went still. Mom looked down at the sink. Brooke folded her arms. Nathan's expression softened into the one he used when he wanted to calm me down without answering anything. Ava, he said gently, you've been on edge all weekend. There it was, the first official draft of their story. Ava was tense. Ava was suspicious. Ava was imagining things. I smiled. Have I? Brooke sighed. Nobody's attacking you. I didn't say anyone was. Then why are you acting like this? I looked at her red lipstick, the same shade that had stained Nathan's collar. I don't know, Brooke, I said. Maybe I'm tired. Her eyes narrowed, just a little. Good, I thought. Let the mask slip. That night, after we left Mom's house, Nathan drove in silence for nearly 10 minutes. Then he said, you embarrassed me. I turned my head slowly. I embarrassed you? At dinner. In front of your mother. In front of Brooke. The order of names was almost funny. My mother. Brooke. Not Ethan. Not family. Brooke. What exactly did I do? I asked. You were cold, accusatory, accusatory. You know what I mean? No, Nathan, I really don't. He gripped the steering wheel. I'm trying to help you, Ava. Everyone is, but you shut people out, then act surprised when they get tired of knocking. The sentence was too polished, too ready, as if he had practiced it. I stared out the windshield at the dark road ahead. There are moments when someone says something so unfair that you almost forget what they did because you are too busy defending who you are. That is how manipulation works. It drags you away from the crime scene and into a courtroom where suddenly you are the one on trial. But I was done defending myself to a guilty man. Are you tired of knocking? I asked. He glanced at me. What? You said people get tired of knocking. Are you tired, Nathan? His jaw flexed. I don't want to fight. Funny, you seem very prepared for one. He did not answer. When we got home, he went straight upstairs. I stayed downstairs. A week earlier, I might have cried. That night, I opened my laptop. If Nathan was preparing to divorce me, then I needed to know exactly how far he had gone. I searched his name in our shared cloud storage. Nothing. I searched the printer history. There, 4 documents printed in the last month. One file name made my hands go cold. Read divorce preliminary notes.pdf. He had deleted the file, but not the print log. The next morning, I called in sick for the first time in nearly 2 years. Then I went through the house like a forensic accountant investigating her own life. I found a second credit card I had not known about. I found payments to a family law firm. I found cash withdrawals made every other Friday. I found a storage unit receipt tucked inside an old real estate folder. And hidden in a folder labeled Taxes 2021, I found a printed email from Nathan to his lawyer. I read the first line and felt my entire body go cold. My wife has always controlled the finances, and I'm concerned she may attempt to restrict access to marital assets. I read it again. My wife has always controlled the finances. Controlled. Not managed, not protected, controlled. He was building a case. Not just leaving me, framing me. I kept reading. He claimed I was emotionally distant. He claimed I had isolated him from friends. He claimed the marriage had been functionally over for more than a year. And then, near the bottom, I saw Brooke's name. Brooke can provide context if needed. She has witnessed Ava's coldness toward the family. I sat back so fast the chair hit the wall behind me. Brooke, of course. My sister was not only sleeping with my husband, she was preparing to testify against me. For a few minutes, I could not move. Then I laughed. Not because anything was funny, because the betrayal had become so large, so layered, so almost artistic in its cruelty, that my mind did not know what else to do. That evening, I remembered the kitchen camera. 2 years earlier, after a series of package thefts in the neighborhood, Nathan had installed small security cameras near the front door, garage, and kitchen entrance. He was always forgetting about them. I was the one who paid the subscription. I was the one who got the alerts when delivery people came too close to the porch. The kitchen camera did not record constantly, only when it detected motion. But sometimes if people stood near the back door, it picked up audio. I opened the app. I went back to Sunday evening. There were clips from dinner prep, from Ethan running through the kitchen, from Mom carrying plates. Then I found it. A 4-minute clip, kitchen, after dinner. Brooke, Nathan, and Mom. I pressed play. Brooke's voice came through first. Mom, don't start. Mom replied, I didn't say anything. You looked like you were going to. Nathan said, this isn't the time. Mom's voice shook. There may never be a right time. Brooke snapped, you promised. Nathan lowered his voice. Linda, please, think about what this would do to Ava. I paused the video. My fingers trembled. Then I hit play again. Mom said, what about what you already did to her? Silence. Then Brooke, colder than I had ever heard her. She doesn't need to know everything. Nathan said, Brooke? No, Brooke continued. She doesn't. She'll break once you serve her the papers. Ava always breaks when family is involved. My breath stopped. Nathan said quietly, I don't want to hurt her more than necessary. Brooke laughed. It was not her usual laugh. It was sharp, bitter, ugly. You should have thought about that before marrying the wrong sister. The wrong sister. The words landed like a slap. Not because she wanted him now, because she believed he had belonged to her first. I replayed it. Then again, the wrong sister. I thought back to my engagement party 6 years earlier. Brooke drinking too much champagne. Brooke disappearing into the backyard. Nathan coming back inside alone, saying he had been taking a call. Brooke crying in the bathroom later, telling me she was just overwhelmed because Dad was sick and everything was changing. I had held her. I had wiped her mascara. I had told her she would always have me. The memory made me feel physically ill. I saved the clip to 3 different places: my phone, my laptop, a private drive Nathan did not know existed. Then I sat in my office until the sun went down. By the time Nathan came home, I had stopped shaking. He walked in carrying flowers, white tulips, my favorite. That almost broke me. Not because it was romantic, because it was strategy. Peace offering, he said. For what? For being tense lately. I took the flowers. They're beautiful. He looked relieved. I hate when we're like this. Like what? Distant. I looked at the flowers in my hands and wondered how many other women had accepted apologies for crimes they had not yet discovered. Me too, I said. He stepped closer. We should talk soon. Really talk. I agree. He smiled. He thought he was ahead of me. That was his mistake. The next afternoon I went to see my mother. I did not call first. When she opened the door, she looked surprised and then immediately afraid. That told me everything. Ava, she said. What's wrong? I walked past her into the living room. We need to talk. Mom closed the door slowly. About what? I turned to face her. About Nathan and Brooke. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I took out my phone and showed her the photos from the hotel. Nathan kissing Brooke. Nathan touching Brooke. Nathan and Brooke entering the hotel together. Mom sat down as if her knees had given out. Oh, God, she whispered. I watched her carefully. She looked devastated, but not shocked. That was the difference. A mother seeing proof of her daughter's affair with her other daughter's husband should have looked horrified, confused, disbelieving. My mother looked like a woman whose worst fear had finally walked through the door. You knew, I said. She looked up quickly. No. Don't lie to me. Ava, I didn't know it was still happening. Still, the word hung between us. I felt the room tilt. Still, I repeated. Mom closed her eyes. Sweetheart. No. Say it again. She began to cry. I had seen my mother cry many times after Dad died, but this was different. This was not grief. This was guilt escaping through cracks she could no longer cover. I took a step back. How long? She shook her head. Ava, please sit down. How long, Mom? She pressed a hand to her mouth. There are things I should have told you before the wedding. For a moment I heard nothing. Not the clock, not the traffic outside, not my own breathing. Before the wedding, my voice came out quiet. What things? Mom looked toward the hallway as if ghosts might be standing there. Then she whispered, I thought I was protecting you. Something inside me hardened. From what? She did not answer. I moved closer. Mom, look at me. She did, and the shame in her eyes frightened me more than the affair ever had. Did Brooke and Nathan sleep together before I married him? Mom covered her face. That was answer enough. I stepped back as if she had struck me. Oh my God. Ava, no, I wanted to tell you, but you didn't. It was complicated. My fiancé sleeping with my sister was complicated? Mom flinched. It was right before your father got worse. He was in and out of the hospital. Brooke was falling apart. Nathan swore it was a mistake. He said he loved you. I stared at her. Every word opened another wound. You let me walk down the aisle to him. Mom stood, crying harder now. I thought if you knew, it would destroy you. And what do you think this is? She reached for me. I moved away. Her hand froze in the air. For the first time in my life, my mother looked small to me. Not weak, small, like all the secrets she had carried had shrunk her from the inside. There's more, she whispered. My chest tightened. What do you mean more? Before she could answer, her phone rang on the coffee table. Brooke. The name lit up the screen. Mom looked at it, then at me. The phone kept ringing. Answer it, I said. Ava, answer it. Put it on speaker. Mom hesitated, except Brooke's voice filled the room. Mom, did Ava come by? Mom's face crumpled. I stayed silent. Brooke continued, impatient now. Nathan said she's acting weird. Did she say anything to you? Mom whispered. Brooke. There was a pause. Then Brooke's voice sharpened. She knows, doesn't she? I felt my blood turn cold. Not knows what? Not what are you talking about? She knows. Mom closed her eyes. Brooke said, Mom, listen to me. Do not tell her anything else. Anything else. My heart slammed against my ribs. I stepped closer to the phone. Too late, I said. Silence. Then Brooke breathed my name. Ava. I looked at my mother, then at the phone. What else don't I know, Brooke? Brooke did not answer. but in that silence, I heard the shape of the secret, large, old, alive, and somehow tied to a little boy who had once looked at my husband and called him Daddy Nate. For a few seconds after Brooke heard my voice, there was nothing on the line but silence. Not confusion, not shock, silence. The kind of silence that told me she had been expecting this day for years and still had no idea what to say now that it had finally arrived. "Ava," Brooke said again, softer this time. I looked down at my mother's phone on the coffee table. Mom stood beside me with one hand pressed against her chest, as if she could physically hold her heart in place. Her face had gone pale, and for the first time in my life she looked afraid of both her daughters. "What else don't I know?" I asked. Brooke exhaled. "I don't think we should do this over the phone." That almost made me smile. The woman who had slept with my husband, helped him prepare a divorce case against me, and planned to use our own family against me, suddenly cared about proper timing. "No," I said. "Then how should we do it, Brooke? Over brunch? Should I bring pastries?" "Ava, stop. No. I think I've been very quiet for a very long time," Mom whispered. "Sweetheart." I turned toward her. "Don't." The word came out sharper than I intended, but I did not apologize. I had spent my whole life softening my anger so other people could survive it. I was done making my pain comfortable. Brooke's voice changed. The fake gentleness faded just enough for the real woman underneath to show. "You don't know the whole story. You keep saying that like it helps you. Because it matters." "What matters, Brooke? That you betrayed me before or after I bought your son's crib? Before or after I paid your rent? Before or after I gave you the money to open that little boutique you used to play independent businesswoman?" Mom flinched. Brooke went quiet. Then she said, "You always do that." "Do what?" "Turn everything into a list of what you've done for people." I laughed once. It came out cold. Funny, I only started making the list when I realized everyone else had been using it as a menu. "Ava," Mom said, crying now, "please." But I was not looking at her. I was looking at the phone. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "Sunday dinner, Mom's house, 6 o'clock. You, Nathan, Mom, and me." Brooke gave a short, nervous laugh. "You're inviting us to dinner?" "No, I'm giving you all one chance to tell the truth in the same room before I decide what to do with the proof I already have." "What proof?" That was the first honest fear I had heard from her. I smiled, though she could not see it. "You'll find out Sunday." I ended the call before she could respond. The moment the room went quiet, my mother sat down on the sofa like her bones could no longer hold her. "Ava," she whispered, "you have to understand." "No," I said. "I don't." She looked up at me through tears. "I made mistakes. You made choices." Her mouth trembled. "I was trying to hold this family together." I stared at her. All my life, my mother had treated the word family like a sacred object. Family forgave, family helped, family stayed, family did not air dirty laundry, family protected each other. But I was beginning to understand that in our house, family had mostly meant Ava absorbs the damage so nobody else has to feel guilty. "You didn't hold the family together," I said. "You held me still while they lied to me." Mom covered her mouth, and for one second I saw the woman beneath the mother. Not wise, not strong, not the center of our family. Just a scared woman who had chosen silence so many times she no longer knew how to speak. I picked up my purse. "Sunday," I said, 6 o'clock. Then I walked out of the house I grew up in, feeling like I had just become a stranger to every room inside it. When I got home, Nathan was in the living room. He stood up too quickly when I came in. "Where were you?" I closed the door behind me. "At my mother's." His face tightened. "Everything okay?" I looked at him for a long moment. He was wearing the navy sweater I had bought him during our anniversary trip to Asheville. His hair was slightly messy. His wedding ring was still on his finger. The sight of it made something bitter rise in my throat. "Mom seemed upset," I said. Nathan's eyes moved over my face, searching for danger. "Upset about what?" I shrugged and walked past him toward the kitchen. "I guess you should ask Brooke." He went still. I opened the refrigerator and took out a bottle of water. My hands were steady now. That surprised me. Grief had made me weak at first, but anger was giving me structure. "What does Brooke have to do with your mom being upset?" he asked. I twisted the cap off the bottle. "You tell me." His jaw tightened. "Ava, if something's going on, just say it." I turned to him. That was when I understood something important. Nathan did not want honesty. He wanted control. He wanted me to reveal how much I knew so he could decide which version of the truth to give me. He wanted to measure the damage before choosing the apology, so I gave him nothing. "We're having dinner at Mom's on Sunday," I said. He blinked. "What?" "You, me, Brooke, Mom, 6 o'clock. That sounds like a terrible idea. Why?" "Because you're clearly upset." "Blah, and?" "And I don't think a family dinner is the right place to whatever this is." I smiled. "Then you should probably make sure you bring your appetite." For the next 2 days, Nathan watched me like a man standing near a locked door, wondering if the fire was already on the other side. He tried kindness first. On Friday morning, he made pancakes before work. Nathan never made pancakes unless he wanted something. "You've barely been eating," he said, setting a plate in front of me. "I've been busy. You're losing weight. Stress does that." He sat across from me. "Is this about us?" I looked at the syrup bottle between us. "Is there an us?" Pain flashed across his face. Or maybe it was fear dressed as pain. "Of course there is." I wanted to ask him which us he meant. The one in our wedding photos? The one in the hotel? The one in the printed pictures where he held Ethan like a father? Instead, I cut into the pancakes and took one bite. They tasted like cardboard. On Friday night, he tried tenderness. He came up behind me while I was brushing my teeth and wrapped his arms around my waist. Once that gesture would have made me melt. Now I could only think about his hands on Brooke's back outside the hotel. "I miss you," he murmured. I met his eyes in the mirror. "You see me every day." "That's not what I mean." "No," I said quietly. "I know exactly what you mean." His arms loosened. I stepped away. On Saturday, he tried irritation. "I don't like being treated like a criminal in my own house," he said. I folded a towel and placed it in the linen closet. "Then stop acting nervous." "I'm nervous because you're acting strange." "I'm acting strange because my life feels strange." He stared at me. "What is that supposed to mean?" I closed the linen closet. "It means Sunday dinner should be interesting." That night I slept in the guest room. Nathan knocked once. "Ava?" I did not answer. He stood outside the door for almost a minute. Then he walked away. I lay in the dark and stared at the ceiling, remembering the first night after our wedding. We had stayed at a small inn near the Blue Ridge Mountains because Nathan said big honeymoons were overrated and he wanted something intimate. I had believed that meant romantic. Later, when I thought back on it, I realized it may have meant affordable because he had already started hiding things. That was the terrible part about betrayal. It did not only destroy the present, it went backward. It touched every memory you had and asked, was this real? Was this also a lie? Did I ever know you at all? By Sunday afternoon, I had everything prepared. I printed the hotel photos. I saved the kitchen camera recording to my phone. I copied the divorce attorney email. I placed everything in a plain manila folder and slipped it into my purse. Before leaving the house, I stood in front of the bedroom mirror. I wore a black dress, simple gold earrings, and my wedding ring. I almost took the ring off. Then I decided to leave it on. Not because I still believed in it. Because I wanted Nathan to look at it while I destroyed every lie he had told under its protection. He drove us to Mom's house. Neither of us spoke. The sky was cloudy, the kind of heavy gray that made the whole neighborhood look washed out. As we pulled into the driveway, I saw Brooke's white SUV already parked near the curb. Nathan noticed it too. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. "You invited Brooke? I told you that. I thought maybe you changed your mind." "No," I said. "I'm done changing my mind to make other people comfortable." He turned to me. "Ava, listen to me. Whatever you think you know." I opened the car door. "I know enough to start." Mom opened the door before we reached the porch. Her eyes were swollen. She had been crying before we arrived. Behind her, Brooke stood in the hallway wearing a soft beige blouse, jeans, and no lipstick. That detail almost made me laugh. No red lipstick tonight. As if removing the color could erase the stain. Nathan stepped in behind me. The moment Brooke saw him, something passed between them. Fear, warning, affection. I did not know anymore. Maybe all three. Ethan's voice came from the living room. "Aunt Ava!" He came running toward me in dinosaur socks, holding a toy truck. For one painful second, everything else disappeared. I crouched and opened my arms. "Hey, buddy." He hugged me tightly. "You came." "I did." Mommy said grown-ups were having a serious dinner. I looked over his shoulder at Brooke. "Did she?" Brooke swallowed. Mom quickly said, "Ethan, honey, Mrs. Parker next door is going to let you watch a movie at her house, remember?" Ethan frowned. "But I want to show Nate my truck." No one moved. Not Uncle Nate, not Daddy Nate, just Nate. Children learn quickly when adults panic enough. Nathan's face went pale. I kissed Ethan's forehead. "You can show him another time." Ethan looked disappointed, but Mom hurried him next door before the silence could become too obvious. When she returned, the four of us stood in the living room like actors who had forgotten which scene came next. Finally, Brooke said, "This is ridiculous." I smiled. "Good evening to you, too." She folded her arms. "If you have something to say, say it." "I will. But Mom cooked, didn't she?" Mom looked at me, startled. "What? You made dinner?" "Then we should eat." Nathan stared at me as if I had lost my mind. Maybe I had. Or maybe I wanted them to sit at that dining table under the family photos, pass plates, pour water, and feel the weight of every normal thing they had poisoned. We sat down. Mom had made roast beef, potatoes, salad, and rolls. Nobody touched much of it. The dining room looked exactly as it always had. Dad's old clock on the wall. Mom's blue curtains. The framed photo of Brooke and me as little girls at Myrtle Beach, both of us sunburned and smiling, my arm around her shoulders. I could not stop looking at that photo. I wondered when my little sister first decided my life was something she deserved to take. Brooke broke first. "I can't do this," she said, pushing her plate away. Nathan said quietly, "Brooke." "No," she snapped. "She's enjoying this." I looked at her. "You think this is enjoyable for me?" Brooke's eyes were wet, but I no longer trusted her tears. "I think you like being the victim," she said. Mom gasped. Nathan closed his eyes. There she was, finally. Not the helpless sister, not the struggling single mom, not the sweet woman who just needed help. The real Brooke. I opened my purse and took out the manila folder. Nathan whispered, "Ava." I placed the first photo on the table. The hotel parking lot. Nathan kissing Brooke. Mom made a wounded sound. Brooke looked away. Nathan stared at the photo like if he looked hard enough it might become something else. I placed the second photo beside it, his hand on her back, then the third. Both of them entering the side door. The room was so quiet I could hear the old clock ticking. I looked at Nathan. "Tell me I'm crazy." He did not speak. I looked at Brooke. "Tell me I misunderstood." She wiped under one eye. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." I laughed softly. "That's the thing people say when they're sorry they got caught." Nathan leaned forward. "Ava, please, let me explain." "No," I said, "you don't get to explain first. You had years to explain. You had mornings beside me, dinners across from me, birthdays, anniversaries, Christmases, all of it. You had time." His face crumpled slightly. "I never wanted to hurt you. But you did. I know." "No," I said, "you don't. Because if you knew, you wouldn't be sitting there trying to sound gentle." Brooke shook her head. "You're acting like we planned to destroy you." I looked at her. "Didn't you?" She flinched. I took out the printed email from Nathan's divorce attorney and placed it on the table. Nathan's expression changed completely. The grief vanished. Fear replaced it. Brooke saw his face and looked down at the paper. I read aloud. "My wife has always controlled the finances, and I'm concerned she may attempt to restrict access to marital assets." Mom looked at Nathan in disbelief. "Nathan." I placed another paper down. "And here's the part where you listed Brooke as someone who could provide context about my coldness toward the family." Brooke went pale. I tilted my head. "Were you going to testify against me, Brooke? In court? Were you going to sit there in a nice dress and tell a judge I was cold after I kept your life from falling apart for 5 years?" Brooke's mouth opened, then closed. Nathan said, "That was never final." "Was the affair final?" He looked down. "Was the hotel final?" "Nothing." "Was the plan to take my money and make me look unstable final?" He whispered, "I was scared." That sentence made something inside me snap. "You were scared?" My voice rose for the first time. "You were scared? Of what, Nathan? The wife who paid off your business debt? The wife who put your name on accounts because she trusted you? The wife who defended you when people said you weren't ambitious enough? The wife who slept beside you while you were building another family with her sister?" Mom covered her face. Brooke slammed her hand on the table. "Don't bring Ethan into this." I turned to her slowly. "Why not?" Her face changed. Nathan said quickly, "Ava." There it was again, that panic, that sudden united fear. I leaned back. "Interesting." Brooke's voice trembled. "He's a child." "Yes," I said. An innocent child, which is why I've been trying very hard not to hate the fact that he looks at my husband like a father. Brooke stood. I'm leaving. No, Mom said. Everyone turned to her. Mom's voice was shaking, but her eyes were fixed on Brooke. No more running. Brooke stared at her. Mom. Linda stood slowly from the table. For the first time all night, she looked less like a frightened woman and more like a mother who had finally reached the end of her own cowardice. No, Mom said again. You don't get to walk away this time. Nathan pushed his chair back. Linda, don't. The words were quiet, almost pleading. I looked at him, then at Brooke, then at my mother. My skin went cold. You all keep saying that, I said. Don't start, don't tell her, don't do this here. Brooke's eyes filled with tears. Ava, you have to understand. I slammed my hand on the table. No, I don't have to understand anything until one of you finally tells me the truth without dressing it up as concern for me. Mom began to cry again, but this time she did not look away. I pointed to Nathan. You cheated. Then to Brooke. You helped him plan a divorce. Then to my mother. And you knew something before I married him. Mom nodded once. It was small, but it shattered me. I stood very slowly. What happened before my wedding? Nathan said. Ava, it was a mistake. I turned to him. I wasn't asking you. Brooke whispered. Mom, please. Mom looked at Brooke, and the pain in her face was terrible. I kept your secret because I thought silence would save us, Mom said. But it didn't save anyone. It only made Ava pay for what you did. Brooke started crying harder. You promised me. I was wrong. Nathan stood up. Linda, think about Ethan. At the sound of that name, the whole room changed. Ethan. There it was, the center of the thing, the living, breathing secret they had been circling all night. I felt my knees weaken, but I forced myself to stay standing. What does Ethan have to do with this? No one answered. I looked at Brooke. She was trembling now. I looked at Nathan. He had gone gray. Then I looked at my mother. Mom. She closed her eyes. For a moment, I thought she still might choose silence. Then she opened them. Before your wedding, she said slowly, Brooke came to me in the middle of the night. Brooke whispered, Stop. Mom kept going. She was crying so hard she could barely breathe. Your father was sick. You were planning the wedding. Everything in this house already felt like it was breaking. I could hear my own heartbeat. Mom looked at Nathan, and for the first time I saw anger in her eyes. She told me she had made a terrible mistake. My throat tightened. With Nathan? I asked. Mom nodded. The room blurred for a second. I gripped the back of my chair. Nathan took a step toward me. I lifted one hand. Don't touch me. He stopped. Mom's voice cracked. I told her she had to tell you. I told both of them, but Nathan swore it meant nothing. Brooke swore she was ashamed, and then your father got worse. You what? I whispered. I panicked. I laughed, but it sounded broken. So you let me marry him? Mom's tears spilled over. Yes, the word was so small. The damage was not. I looked at Brooke. How could you stand beside me at my wedding? Brooke's face twisted. You don't know what it was like. I stared at her. What was like? Her expression hardened through the tears. Watching you get everything. The words stunned me. She wiped her face roughly. You always got to be the good daughter, the smart one, the dependable one. Dad was proud of you. Mom trusted you. Nathan chose you. Everyone chose you. Nathan said, Brooke, stop. But she was not stopping now. Years of resentment were pouring out of her, ugly and hot. And I was just Brooke, messy Brooke, needy Brooke, the one everyone had to fix. I did fix things for you, I said. Exactly, she shouted. Do you know how humiliating that is? To always need your perfect sister? I stepped back. Perfect. That word again. They had all built a version of me that made it easier to betray me. A perfect woman does not need comfort. A strong woman does not break. A responsible woman can be used because she will always clean up the mess. I looked at Brooke and felt something colder than hate. Pity, maybe. Or the death of love. You could have hated me, honestly, I said. You didn't have to sleep with my fiancé. Brooke looked away. Mom went to the sideboard near the window. Her hands trembled as she opened the bottom drawer and pulled out an old leather purse I recognized immediately. It had belonged to my grandmother, then to Mom. She never used it anymore. It was the kind of thing someone kept because throwing it away felt disrespectful. From inside, she took a sealed envelope. Old, yellowed slightly at the edges. My name was not on it. No name was. But Nathan reacted as if she had pulled out a weapon. Linda, he said. Brooke stood frozen. Mom held the envelope with both hands. I should have given this to you years ago. My voice was barely audible. What is it? Mom looked at Ethan's empty booster seat near the kitchen doorway. Then she looked back at me. When Brooke came to me before your wedding, she wasn't only crying because she had slept with Nathan. The air left my lungs. Mom swallowed. She was pregnant. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The old clock on the wall ticked once, twice, 3 times. I looked at Brooke, then Nathan, then the envelope in my mother's shaking hands. And suddenly I understood why Ethan had once looked at my husband with innocent eyes and called him Daddy Nate. She was pregnant. My mother's words did not sound loud. They did not need to. They landed in the dining room with the weight of a gunshot. For a moment, I could not feel my own body. My hands were still gripping the back of the chair, but they felt distant, like they belonged to someone else. The room seemed to stretch and tilt around me. The old clock kept ticking. The roast beef sat untouched on the table. Brooke's chair scraped slightly against the floor as she shifted her weight. Nathan said my name. Ava? I looked at him. My husband. The man who had slept beside me for 5 years. The man who had kissed my forehead that morning. The man who had watched me help raise my nephew while knowing there was a chance that child was not my nephew at all, but his son. My voice came out almost calm. Whose baby? Nobody answered. That was answer enough. Still, I wanted someone to say it. I needed the words outside of my own head. I looked at Brooke. Whose baby, Brooke? She was crying now, but not the way she usually cried. This was not delicate, not pretty, not controlled. Her face was red, her mouth trembling, her mascara beginning to smudge under her eyes. Ava, please don't do this. I laughed once, breathless and empty. I'm not doing anything. I'm asking a question. Nathan took a step forward. It was complicated. I turned on him so fast he stopped moving. If you say that word one more time, I swear to God, Nathan. His mouth closed. Mom still held the envelope in both hands. Her fingers were shaking so badly the paper made a soft, dry sound. I pointed at it. What is that? Mom swallowed. A DNA test. The floor seemed to disappear beneath me. Brooke covered her face. Nathan looked down. I heard the sound that came out of me before I understood I had made it. Not a sob, not a scream. Something smaller and worse. A broken breath. Mom stepped toward me. I'm sorry, she whispered. No, I said. She stopped. No more sorry until I know what you're sorry for. Mom nodded, crying silently. Then she opened the envelope. Inside was a folded report, yellowed at the edges but still clean, still readable, still devastating. She placed it on the table. I stared at it. The top of the page showed a private laboratory name in Charlotte, a date from 5 years earlier, Ethan's full name, Ethan Miller Whitmore, and beneath that, in neat black text, a sentence that destroyed every lie in the room. Probability of paternity 99.99%. Alleged father Nathan Daniel Reed. I did not touch the paper at first. I simply looked at the words until they stopped being words and became a truth too large for the page holding it. Nathan was Ethan's father. My husband had a child with my sister, and I had been buying that child birthday presents, paying his tuition, reading him bedtime stories on nights Brooke said she was too exhausted to cope. Not because Ethan was guilty. He was not. That was what made it even more unbearable. The innocent one had been placed right in the center of the lie. I looked up slowly. Nathan. His eyes were wet now. I didn't know for sure at first. My voice was sharp enough to cut glass. At first I thought maybe. Maybe what? Maybe the child your mistress was carrying belonged to someone else? Brooke flinched at the word mistress. Good. I wanted it to hurt. Nathan rubbed both hands over his face. It happened one time before the wedding. Brooke let out a bitter laugh through her tears. I turned to her. What? She shook her head. Nathan snapped. Brooke. I stared at him. Don't what? Brooke wiped her face and looked at Nathan with something close to hatred. You're still lying. Nathan's face hardened. This is not the time. Brooke laughed again, but there was no humor in it. That's what you always say when the truth makes you look worse. The room shifted. For the first time, Nathan looked afraid of Brooke. Mom whispered, Brooke. But Brooke was already unraveling. She looked at me, tears streaking her face, and said, It wasn't one time. I closed my eyes. Of course it was not. Of course the truth still had more teeth. When? I asked. Brooke looked away. I stepped closer. When? She whispered. It started at your engagement party. The memory came back so violently that I had to hold onto the chair again. The backyard lights, the champagne, Brooke crying in the bathroom, Nathan coming back inside, saying he had been on a work call. Me holding Brooke while she shook, me telling her she was my sister, that nothing would ever change that. My stomach turned. You slept with him at my engagement party? Brooke did not answer. Nathan said, we were drunk. I looked at him with disgust. That is not an explanation. That is a costume cowards put on their choices. He looked wounded. I was glad. Brooke's voice was small. It didn't stop right away. The dining room went silent again. Mom gripped the back of her chair. I stared at my sister. How long? Brooke pressed her lips together. How long, Brooke? Nathan said, Ava, enough. I turned to him. No, you don't get to decide when I've had enough. You lost that right the moment you put your hands on my sister and then put a ring on mine. He looked away. Brooke whispered, until I found out I was pregnant. I felt something inside me crack open. So while I was choosing flowers and bridesmaid dresses and cake flavors, you two were sleeping together. Brooke sobbed. I hated myself. No, I said, you hated me. She looked up sharply. I pointed to the DNA test. You hated me enough to stand beside me at my wedding while carrying my fiancé's child. Mom began crying harder. Nathan covered his face. Brooke shook her head violently. You don't understand what it was like. There it was again, that same desperate demand to be understood, as if understanding could make betrayal less ugly. Then explain it, I said. Go ahead. Explain how my pain was necessary for your survival. Brooke stared at me. For a moment I saw the little girl she used to be, the one who would crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, the one who asked me to braid her hair before school, the one who cried when Dad missed her dance recital because he had to work late. Then that girl disappeared. In her place stood a woman who had spent years feeding on my forgiveness. You always made it look so easy, Brooke said. Her voice was shaking, but there was bitterness underneath. School, work, money, Dad's approval, Mom's trust. Men took you seriously. People listened when you talked. Even when Dad got sick, everyone looked at you like you were the only one who could hold us together. I was trying to hold us together. I know, she shouted. That's what made it worse. I stared at her, stunned. Brooke pressed both hands to her chest. Do you know what it feels like to be the sister everyone worries about? The messy one? The needy one? The one who needs help from Ava again? So you punished me for helping you? I didn't plan to, but you did. She wiped her face. Nathan saw me. I looked at Nathan. He looked ashamed, but not enough. Brooke continued. At the engagement party, I was outside crying because everyone kept talking about how beautiful you looked, how proud Dad was, how lucky Nathan was, and Nathan came out. He asked if I was okay. He listened. Her eyes moved toward him. He made me feel like I wasn't invisible. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so pathetic. You confused being noticed with being loved. Brooke's face twisted, and you confused being chosen with being better. The words struck hard, but not because they were true, because she needed them to be. If I was arrogant, if I was cold, if I had somehow stolen the life she deserved, then maybe what she did could become justice in her mind. But it was not justice. It was theft. Nathan finally spoke. I loved you, Ava. I turned to him slowly. Don't. I did. You loved me while sleeping with my sister? I was confused. You were engaged. I made a terrible mistake. You made a child. He flinched. The room went dead quiet. There it was, the truth in its simplest form, not an affair, not a mistake, a child. A living, breathing little boy who loved red race cars and dinosaurs and believed the adults around him told the truth. I looked down at the DNA test again. Who else knows? Mom answered, barely above a whisper. No one. I looked at her. You knew. She nodded. For how long? Since Ethan was a baby. My breath caught. You said Brooke came to you before the wedding. She did. And you didn't tell me. Mom shook her head. No. Then after Ethan was born, you did the test. Yes. And you still didn't tell me. Her face crumpled. Yes. I stepped back from her. All my life I had trusted my mother's silence because I thought silence meant wisdom. I thought she waited to speak because she was careful, because she saw more than the rest of us, because she understood things deeply. Now I understood that sometimes silence is just cowardice wearing a gentle face. Why? I asked. Mom wiped her cheeks. Your father was dying. Dad died before Ethan was born. I know. Then why after? She looked down. Because by then, you were married. I stared at her. The words settled between us like poison. Because by then, you were married. As if marriage was a locked door. As if once I had walked through it, the truth no longer had the right to follow me. Mom said, I thought telling you would destroy your life. I laughed softly. You thought hiding it would preserve it? She reached toward me again. I was wrong. I stepped away. You were more than wrong. Her hand fell. You let me build a marriage around a bomb, I said, and then you sat there every Sunday and watched me eat dinner beside it. Mom began to sob. Brooke said, Don't blame Mom. I begged her. I turned toward her. Oh, I blame everyone appropriately. Nathan said quietly, I wanted to tell you. That was the wrong thing to say. The rage hit me so fast that my hands shook. You wanted to tell me? He nodded, desperate now. So why didn't you? I was afraid of losing you. No, you were afraid of losing what I gave you. His mouth opened. I kept going. My house, my stability, my money, my family name, my ability to make your failures look temporary. Ava, that's not fair? Not fair? I moved closer to him. You had a son with my sister and let me call him my nephew for 5 years. Do not stand in my mother's dining room and talk to me about fair. Nathan looked down. For the first time all night, he had no answer. Brooke sat slowly back into her chair. Her anger had burned out, leaving something hollow behind. Ethan loves you, she whispered. That pierced me. I hated her for using him. I hated that it worked. Because the second she said his name, I saw him as a baby in my arms, tiny fingers curled around mine. I remembered his first birthday, his dinosaur cake, his laugh when I pretended to be scared of his plastic T-Rex. I remembered him asleep on my couch during thunderstorms while Brooke cried about being overwhelmed. I loved that boy, and now love had become another weapon they had placed in my hands and dared me to drop. Don't use him, I said quietly. Brooke looked up. What? Don't you dare use Ethan to make yourself smaller in this. He's my son. He is an innocent child. That is the only reason I'm still standing here instead of burning this entire room down with the truth. Brooke went silent. Mom whispered, Ava. I reached for my wedding ring. Nathan saw the movement. His face changed. Ava, please don't. The ring did not slide off easily. For 5 years, I had worn it through summer heat, winter cold, work meetings, funerals, holidays, ordinary mornings, and nights when I believed the man beside me was mine. I twisted it once, then again. Finally, it came free. The pale mark it left behind looked almost obscene, a clean circle where trust had been. I placed the ring on the dining table beside the DNA test. The small sound it made against the wood seemed louder than any scream. Nathan stared at it. Brooke covered her mouth. Mom bowed her head. I looked at Nathan. You didn't just lose a wife tonight. My voice was steady now. You lost the woman who paid for your entire life. He looked up, startled. What does that mean? I almost smiled. There he was, not heartbroken, worried. It means tomorrow morning, my attorney gets everything. The hotel photos, the camera recording, the divorce email, the financial records, the hidden credit card, the payments to Brooke, and this. I tapped the DNA test. Nathan's face drained of color. Ava, wait. No. You don't have to make this ugly. I stared at him. You made it ugly. I'm making it documented. Brooke stood again. You can't just destroy everyone. I looked at her. You should have worried about destruction when you were building your almost perfect life with my husband. Her eyes widened. I watched the words hit her. The photo, the handwriting, our almost perfect life. Nathan turned toward Brooke. What is she talking about? I gave a small laugh. You didn't know she wrote that on the back of your family photos? Brooke looked trapped. Nathan looked at her with disbelief. For 1 second, the two of them were no longer united against me. Good. Lies do not hold well under light. Mom moved suddenly. She stepped toward Brooke. You let your sister pay for Ethan's school. Brooke stared at her. You let Ava hold your hand in the hospital. You let her buy his crib. You let her throw his birthday parties. You let her love that child while hiding who his father was. Brooke's face hardened defensively. I didn't ask her to do all that. Mom slapped her. The sound cracked through the room. Brooke gasped, one hand flying to her cheek. Nathan stepped forward, then stopped when he saw my face. Mom stood trembling, horrified at herself, but not regretful. You don't get to say that, Mom said through tears. Not after everything she did for you. Brooke stared at our mother like she had never seen her before. Maybe she had not. Maybe none of us had. Because for the first time in years, Linda Whitmore was not protecting the weakest person in the room. She was protecting the one who had been expected to survive everything, me. But it was too late for that to feel like comfort. I picked up the DNA test and slid it back into the envelope. "I'm taking this." Mom nodded. Brooke whispered, "You can't." I looked at her. "I can. That's private." So was my marriage. She had no answer. I placed the envelope in my purse, along with the photos and documents. Nathan said, "Ava, where are you going?" "Home. I'll come with you." "No, you won't. I live there too." I turned to him. "For tonight. Enjoy it." His face tightened. What is that supposed to mean? "It means by tomorrow afternoon you'll be speaking to my lawyer, not me." He took a step closer. "Ava, please. 5 years. Doesn't that mean anything?" I looked at him for a long time. 5 years. It had meant anniversaries, mortgage payments, shared toothbrush cups, holiday cards, whispered prayers beside hospital beds, and mornings where I believed choosing each other was something sacred. To him, apparently, it had meant shelter, convenience, cover. "It means I was loyal to a man who never existed," I said. That hurt him. I saw it. A part of me was glad. Another part of me was tired. So tired. I walked toward the front door. Mom followed me into the hallway. "Ava," she said. I stopped, but did not turn around. "I know you may never forgive me." I closed my eyes. "I don't know what forgiveness looks like right now." "I understand." "No," I said quietly. "You don't, but maybe someday you will." Behind us, Brooke was crying in the dining room. Nathan was saying something low and urgent. Their voices overlapped, not as lovers now, but as co-conspirators realizing the plan had failed and the blame had to go somewhere. I opened the door. Cold evening air hit my face. For 1 second, I looked back into the house. The dining room light was warm. The old clock was ticking. My mother stood in the hallway with tears on her cheeks. Brooke sat at the table holding her red cheek. Nathan stood beside the chair where my wedding ring still lay. And I finally saw them clearly. Not as family, not as husband, not as mother, as people who had mistaken my love for permission. I stepped outside. Nathan called after me, "Ava!" I kept walking. He followed me onto the porch. "Ava, stop! Please, we need to talk." I reached my car and turned around. "No, Nathan, you need to talk. I need to leave." His eyes were desperate now. "What about Ethan?" The name sliced through me. I swallowed hard. Ethan is the only person in this entire mess I still care about protecting. "Then don't do this." I looked at him in disbelief. "You don't get to hide behind your son now." He froze. "Your son." The words were out. There was no taking them back. Nathan looked toward the house, then back at me. For the first time, he looked less like a cheating husband and more like a man realizing fatherhood could not stay hidden when it became legally inconvenient. I opened my car door. "Ava," he whispered. I paused. "If you loved Ethan, you would have told the truth before he was old enough to be hurt by it." Then I got in the car and drove away. I did not know where I was going at first. Not home. Not yet. I drove through familiar streets until they blurred into lights and shadows. I passed the preschool where Ethan had called Nathan Daddy Nate. I passed the bakery where Brooke had once cried because she could not afford his birthday cake, and I had paid for it without hesitation. I passed the church where Nathan and I had stood in front of everyone we loved and promised forever. Forever. What a dangerous word in the mouth of a liar. Finally, I pulled into an empty parking lot near a closed garden center and turned off the engine. That was when the tears came. Not pretty tears. Not quiet tears. The kind that bent me forward over the steering wheel until I could barely breathe. I cried for my marriage. I cried for the sister I thought I had. I cried for the mother who had chosen silence over me. I cried for Ethan, who would one day learn that his life had been wrapped in secrets before he was even born. But mostly, I cried for the woman I had been that morning. The one who still wore a wedding ring. The one who still thought the worst betrayal had already happened. She was gone now. And when I finally lifted my head, when my breathing slowed and the tears dried on my face, something inside me had changed. I was not healed. I was not calm. I was not free yet. But I was done being useful to people who only loved me when I made their lives easier. I took out my phone. I found the number of the attorney a coworker had once recommended after her own divorce. Then I typed a message. My husband has been having an affair with my sister. He has a child with her that was hidden from me. He is also preparing to divorce me and misrepresent our finances. I have evidence. I need representation immediately. I stared at the message, then I pressed send. The screen glowed in the dark car. For the first time all night, I breathed. Not deeply, not peacefully, but enough. Behind me was the family that had lied. Ahead of me was whatever came after the truth. And I was going to make sure every single person who had built their comfort on my silence learned what happened when Ava Whitmore Reed finally stopped being quiet. By Monday morning, I no longer felt like a wife. I felt like evidence. Every part of my life had become something that could be documented, copied, saved, and handed to a lawyer. The hotel photos, the recording from my mother's kitchen, Nathan's email to his divorce attorney, the hidden credit card, the storage unit receipt, the old DNA test with Ethan's name and Nathan's name printed on the same page like a sentence nobody could appeal. For years, I had believed pain was something you survived privately. But betrayal this organized did not deserve privacy. It deserved a paper trail. At 8:12 a.m., the attorney called me. Her name was Marissa Cole. She had a calm, low voice and the kind of silence that made people keep talking until they accidentally told the truth. A coworker had once described her as expensive but worth it. After 20 minutes on the phone, I understood why. "Do not confront him again alone," Marissa said. "I already did." "I know. From this point forward, don't. Do not move money without speaking to me. Do not delete messages. Do not send emotional texts. Do not threaten. Do not warn. Preserve everything." "I have copies. Good. Make more." There was no pity in her voice. I appreciated that. Pity would have made me cry. Strategy gave me somewhere to put my hands. By 10:30, I had sent her everything. By noon, she had scheduled an emergency consultation. By 2, I was sitting across from her in a corner office downtown, wearing sunglasses because my eyes were still swollen from crying in a parking lot the night before. Marissa was in her late 40s, with dark hair pulled into a neat bun and a wedding ring she twisted once when I explained Ethan. Only once. Then she became still again. "So your husband had a sexual relationship with your sister before the wedding," she said, reviewing her notes. "She became pregnant. Your mother later obtained a DNA test confirming your husband was the father. This was concealed from you. The affair resumed or continued during the marriage. Meanwhile, your husband began preparing a divorce narrative that portrays you as financially controlling and emotionally unstable." Hearing it summarized like that made it sound insane. Not dramatic, not complicated. Insane. "Yes," I said. Marissa looked up. "And you have proof that he used marital funds for expenses connected to your sister?" "I believe so. I have credit card records, transfers, cash withdrawals, and a hidden card I didn't know about. I also found payments that matched dates when he said he was working late or traveling." She nodded. "Then we start there." I swallowed. "What happens now?" "Now," she said, closing the folder, "we stop him from writing the story first." That sentence stayed with me. For years, Nathan and Brooke had survived by controlling what people knew. My mother had survived by controlling what people did not know. I had survived by not asking too many questions because I trusted the people answering them. That part of my life was over. When I returned home that evening, Nathan's car was in the driveway. For a moment, I sat outside with both hands on the steering wheel and looked at the house. Our house. The white siding, the navy shutters, the porch swing he had promised to fix every spring. It looked peaceful. That offended me. I wanted the house to show damage. I wanted the windows cracked, the porch sagging, the lawn burned down to dirt. I wanted the outside to tell the truth about what had happened inside. But betrayal rarely leaves visible damage. That is why people get away with it. Nathan was waiting in the living room when I walked in. He stood, immediately. "Ava." I closed the door behind me. "You need to leave." His face tightened. "This is my home, too." "No," I said. "It's the house I bought before we were married. Your name is not on the deed." His mouth opened, then closed. He had forgotten I knew numbers better than he did. Or maybe he had counted on me being too heartbroken to remember them. "I'm not leaving," he said. I took my phone out of my purse. "My attorney advised me not to discuss this with you alone, so you can pack a bag and leave peacefully, or I can call her right now and we can begin this process less peacefully." His eyes darkened. You're really going to treat me like an enemy? I looked at him for a long moment. No, Nathan, I treated you like a husband. That was my mistake. The words landed. For once, he did not have a polished answer. He went upstairs. I stood at the bottom of the staircase and listened to drawers opening and closing. Every sound was ordinary and unbearable. The suitcase wheels, the closet door, the bathroom cabinet. How many times had I packed his bags for business trips? How many times had I reminded him not to forget his phone charger? How many times had I kissed him goodbye while he carried my trust out the door? 20 minutes later, he came down with a black duffel bag. He looked smaller somehow, not less handsome, not less familiar, just less powerful. At the door, he stopped. I did love you, he said. I wanted to believe that once. Now I only heard what was missing, but not enough to tell the truth, I said. He flinched. Then he left. The sound of the door closing did not feel like freedom. Not yet. It felt like the first clean cut after years of infection. That night, I changed the alarm code. Then I slept for 3 hours on the living room couch with every light on. The next weeks did not unfold like a movie. There was no single satisfying moment where everyone admitted everything and the universe corrected itself. There were emails, legal letters, bank records, meetings, screenshots, statements, receipts. Nathan's attorney first tried to claim the marriage had been emotionally deteriorating for years. Marissa responded with evidence of Nathan planning divorce while spending money on Brooke and continuing to present our marriage publicly as intact. Nathan's attorney suggested I had invaded his privacy by accessing his office drawer. Marissa asked whether he wanted to discuss the hidden financial documents he had stored inside a locked drawer in a home owned solely by his wife. That argument disappeared quickly. Then came the money. That was where Nathan had always underestimated me. Love had made me blind. Numbers never had. A forensic accountant found patterns I had only suspected. Payments to restaurants, hotels, gifts, and cash withdrawals that aligned with Brooke's expenses. Money from our joint account had helped cover Brooke's boutique rent during months when she claimed she was paying it herself. Nathan had also moved funds into a separate account while preparing to accuse me of financial control. When Marissa showed me the summary, I felt a strange calm. There is a special kind of grief in realizing someone did not only betray your heart, they budgeted for it. Brooke called me 7 times in 1 week. I did not answer. She texted first with apology. Ava, I know you hate me, but please let me explain. Then with guilt, Ethan keeps asking why he can't see you. Then with anger, you're ruining my life because you can't accept that Nathan chose me. Then finally with desperation, the boutique landlord called. I can't pay everything at once. Please don't do this to Ethan. That last message almost worked. Almost. I sat at my kitchen island, staring at the screen, feeling my old self reach for the phone. Old Ava would have called. Old Ava would have asked how much. Old Ava would have separated Brooke's cruelty from Ethan's needs so perfectly that Brooke never had to become responsible for either. But old Ava had been trained to respond to emergencies other people created. I put the phone down. Then I emailed Marissa. Brooke is using Ethan to pressure me. I do not want him harmed, but I do not want contact with her. What options do I have? Marissa responded 2 hours later. We can discuss a structured arrangement through counsel if you want to provide limited support for Ethan without giving funds directly to Brooke. That was how I learned care did not have to mean surrender. A week later, I set aside money for Ethan's school expenses through a controlled educational account managed by a neutral third party. Brooke could not touch it for rent, clothes, emergencies, or whatever she called consequences when they arrived wearing bills. When Mom found out, she called me crying. You didn't have to do that, she said. I know. He loves you. I closed my eyes. I love him too. That's why I'm keeping the adults away from the money. Mom was quiet. Then she said, I deserve that. I did not comfort her. That was new for me. For most of my life, my mother's sadness had been a command. If she cried, I softened. If she regretted something, I translated it into forgiveness. If she said she had tried her best, I pretended her best had not damaged me. But now silence sat between us differently. I let her feel it. How is he? I asked finally. Confused, Mom said. Brooke told him you're busy with work. Of course she had. What did Nathan tell him? Mom sighed shakily. Nathan has been visiting. My stomach tightened. As his father? No, Not openly. I almost laughed, still hiding, even now, even after everything. Ethan deserves the truth, I said. I know. Not all of it, not the ugly parts, but enough. He deserves not to grow up thinking love means people disappear without explanation. Mom began crying again. I am so sorry, Ava. I looked out the kitchen window at the porch swing Nathan never fixed. I believe you're sorry, I said. I just don't know what to do with that yet. She was quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, That's fair. It was the first time in weeks that someone in my family had used that word correctly. The divorce mediation happened 3 months later in a conference room with beige walls, bad coffee, and a window that looked out over a parking garage. Nathan was already there when I arrived. He stood when he saw me. I hated that my body still recognized him. Not with love, not even with longing, just recognition. 5 years of marriage had left marks deeper than anger could erase overnight. He looked tired. Good, Brooke was not there, but I could feel her anyway. In the documents, in the DNA test, in the financial records, in the space between Nathan and me where our marriage used to be. Marissa sat beside me. Nathan's attorney sat beside him. For the first hour, everything was procedural. Assets, debts, accounts, house, business liabilities, reimbursements. Then Nathan asked to speak. His attorney touched his arm, probably warning him not to. Nathan spoke anyway. Ava, I know I can't undo what happened. I looked at him. He continued, I made choices I regret. I hurt you. I hurt everyone. But I don't want this to be the only way we remember each other. Something inside me twisted. Not because I believed him. Because part of me remembered the version of Nathan I had loved. The man laughing in the Blue Ridge Mountains. The man dancing barefoot with me in our kitchen after a power outage. The man holding my hand at Dad's funeral. I had loved him. That was the humiliating truth. I had loved him honestly. He had not been a monster every day. That would have been easier. He had been kind enough, often enough to make the cruelty confusing. I folded my hands on the table. How would you like me to remember you? His eyes filled with tears. As someone who failed, not someone who never cared. I considered that. Then I said, You cared about what I gave you. He swallowed. You cared about the stability, the house, the reputation, the money when your business was struggling, the way my family welcomed you, the way I made you look like a better man than you were. His face tightened. But you didn't care enough about me to tell me I was marrying a man who had already betrayed me. The room was silent. You didn't care enough to tell me Ethan was your son. He looked down. And when you decided to leave, you didn't even care enough to leave honestly. You tried to make me look unstable so you could walk away cleaner. His attorney shifted uncomfortably. I leaned back. So no, Nathan, I won't remember you as someone who never cared. I'll remember you as someone who cared only when caring didn't cost him the truth. He wiped his eyes. For once, I did not feel responsible for them. By the end of mediation, Nathan agreed to repay a portion of the misused funds. He gave up any claim to the house. He accepted responsibility for certain debts he had tried to blur into our shared finances. The final agreement was not perfect. Legal endings rarely are. But it was enough. Enough to close the door. Enough to keep my home. Enough to prove I had not imagined the harm. When I walked out of the building, Brooke was waiting near the elevators. I stopped. She looked different. No perfect curls, no red lipstick, no expensive coat. Her face was pale, her eyes tired. For a moment, I almost saw a stranger. Ava, she said. Marissa looked at me. I'll be by the lobby, she said. Then she walked away. Brooke hugged her arms around herself. I didn't know you were coming out now. I gave her a look. "Shokay." I did. We stood facing each other in the hallway, my sister and me. Blood, history, damage. What do you want? I asked. She looked down. The boutique is closing. I said nothing. I couldn't keep up with everything after. She stopped. After you stopped helping. There it was. Not after I betrayed you. Not after I lied. After you stopped helping. I nodded slowly. That must be hard. Her eyes flashed. Don't do that. Do what? Talk like you don't care. I care less than I used to. She looked hurt, as if my reduced concern were the true betrayal. Then her expression shifted. Ethan asks about you. I know. He misses you. I miss him. You could see him, not through you. Her mouth tightened. I'm his mother. Yes. And you used that position to build a lie around him before he was even born. Her eyes filled with tears. I was scared. I almost laughed. That word again, scared. Everyone had been scared. Nathan was scared to lose me. Brooke was scared to be exposed. Mom was scared the family would break. And because they were scared, I had been sacrificed. I'm sure you were, I said, but fear does not make you innocent. Brooke wiped her cheek. I loved him. Nathan? She nodded. I looked at her and realized something that felt almost merciful. Brooke had not won anything. Not really. She had wanted my life because from the outside it looked whole. She had wanted my husband because she thought being chosen by him would prove she was not second best. She had wanted my downfall because she thought it would lift her higher. But all she had now was a man who lied when cornered, a child whose truth would someday hurt him, a collapsing business, and a sister who no longer answered when she cried. You can have him, I said, her face crumpled. That was when I knew Nathan had not chosen her either, not fully. Men like Nathan did not choose women, they chose shelter, and when one shelter burned, they searched for another. Brooke whispered, Do you hate me? I thought about it. I wanted the answer to be simple. Yes, no, maybe. But hate requires a kind of heat I no longer wanted to give her. I don't trust you, I said. I don't feel safe with you. I don't know if I'll ever want you in my life again. She nodded, crying silently. But Ethan is innocent, I continued. If there is a safe way for me to remain in his life someday, I'll consider it. Not because of you, because of him. Brooke covered her mouth. I'm sorry, she whispered. For the first time, the words did not make me angry. They simply felt too small. I know, I said. Then I walked away. 6 months later, the divorce was final. I did not throw a party. I did not burn my wedding dress. I did not post inspirational quotes online about betrayal, healing, or becoming a stronger woman. I signed the papers. Then I went home, sat on the kitchen floor, and cried for 20 minutes. After that, I made tea. Healing was not dramatic. Most days it was boring. It was changing passwords. It was sleeping through the night for the first time in weeks. It was going to therapy and admitting that being the strong one had made me an easy target for people who loved taking more than they gave. It was learning not to answer every call. It was learning that guilt was not always a signal to act. Sometimes guilt was just an old leash. Mom and I started speaking again slowly, not the way we used to. Maybe we never would. She stopped asking for forgiveness after I told her forgiveness was not a favor she could request on a schedule. Instead, she began telling the truth in small, painful pieces. She told me Nathan had come to her twice before the wedding, begging her not to tell me. She told me Brooke had threatened to disappear if Mom exposed her. She told me she had convinced herself that silence was temporary. I kept thinking I would tell you after your father stabilized, Mom said one afternoon. Then after the wedding. Then after Ethan was born. Then after one more holiday, one more birthday, one more year. I listened. Not because it fixed anything, because truth, even late, was still cleaner than silence. Ethan learned the truth gradually, with the help of a child therapist. Not the adult details, not the affair, not the manipulation, not the cruelty. Just enough for him to understand that Nathan was his biological father, that the adults had made mistakes, and that he was loved by people who were still learning how to be honest. The first time he called me after that, I almost did not answer because I was afraid of hearing pain in his voice. But I did. Hi, Aunt Ava, he said. My eyes filled instantly. Hi, buddy. Grandma said I can still call you Aunt Ava. I pressed a hand to my mouth. You can always call me Aunt Ava. Even if stuff is weird? A tear ran down my cheek, especially if stuff is weird. He was quiet for a second. Then he said, I miss your pancakes. I laughed through tears. They're terrible. Yeah, he said, but you make dinosaur ones. That was how love survived the wreckage, not in grand speeches, in dinosaur pancakes. A year after the night my mother handed me the DNA test, I sold the house. People were surprised. You fought so hard to keep it, Julia said at work. I know. Then why sell? I looked at the listing photos on my laptop, the bright kitchen, the living room. The porch swing Nathan had finally fixed 2 weeks before I discovered the truth, probably because guilt made men handy. Because keeping something and needing it are different things, I said. I moved to Charleston, South Carolina, not because I wanted to run away, because I wanted to choose a place that had never belonged to Nathan. My new apartment was smaller than the house in Charlotte, but it had wide windows, morning light, and a balcony where I could see a thin strip of ocean if I stood in exactly the right spot with coffee in my hand. For the first time in years, my home did not feel like a stage where I had to perform stability. It felt like mine. One Saturday morning, almost a year after the divorce, I received an email from Nathan. Subject: I hope you're well. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Ava, I know I have no right to reach out. I've been thinking a lot about everything. About you, about what I did, about the kind of man I became. I'm sorry for the pain I caused. I miss talking to you. If you would ever be willing to meet for coffee, I would be grateful. Nathan. I read it twice. There was a time when that email would have undone me. I would have searched every sentence for sincerity. I would have wondered if he had changed. I would have imagined him sitting alone somewhere, regretful, finally understanding what he had lost. But peace had taught me something pain never could. Not every apology deserves access. I deleted the email. Then I blocked the address. After that, I opened the small wooden box I kept in my bedroom closet. Inside was my wedding ring. I had not known what to do with it. Selling it felt practical but wrong. Keeping it felt heavy. Throwing it away felt too easy for something that had once meant so much to me. So I carried it to the beach. The morning was cool and windy. The sky was pale blue and the waves rolled in with a steady sound that made everything human feel temporary. I stood near the water and held the ring in my palm. For a long time, I looked at it. It was still beautiful. That almost bothered me. But then I realized beautiful things can still belong to painful chapters. Beauty does not prove something was good. It only proves you once wanted it to be. I thought about Nathan. I thought about Brooke. I thought about Mom. I thought about Ethan, who was slowly learning that truth could hurt without destroying him. And I thought about the woman I had been before all of this. The woman who believed loyalty meant staying quiet. The woman who thought love meant being useful. The woman who mistook being needed for being valued. I loved her. I grieved her. But I could not be her anymore. I closed my fist around the ring one last time. Then I threw it into the ocean. It disappeared without ceremony. No thunder, no music, no sudden feeling of freedom, just a small flash of gold swallowed by water. And somehow, that was enough. I stood there until the next wave reached my feet. For years I had thought losing Nathan would mean losing my family, my marriage, my home, my story. But the truth was, I had already been losing myself in small pieces for a long time. The affair did not destroy me. The secret did not destroy me. The lies did not destroy me. They woke me up, and when I walked away from the water that morning, I was not the woman who had once sat in the dark holding a stained shirt, wondering if she was imagining everything. I was not the wife who had been replaced. I was not the sister who had been used. I was not the daughter who had been kept in the dark for everyone else's comfort. I was Ava Whitmore. And for the first time in my life, that was enough.